It's crazy.
安厂在研究战争雷霆时，为了保证游戏数据的真实、专业乃至音效的逼真效果，甚至动用了真实的坦克、飞机、火炮。在我们看来，这些方式在中国都是无法想象的。如此具有专业性的战争雷霆，究竟会给玩家传达怎样的游戏精神和游戏体验呢
？By the way, is this a... That's a Stug 4, isn't it? Isn't it? I still don't think we have a Stug 4, do we? I'm pretty sure that's a Stug 4. Weird.
究竟会给玩家传达怎样的游戏精神和游戏体验呢
It might be a Stug 3. It just looks a bit too boxy.
The main idea is that we just don't make compromises. When we can make something authentic, we try to make that authentic. Unfortunately, not many World War II vehicles are really working those days, but those who are, we try to record them, to photograph them, to replicate them in the game as close to reality as possible. It's not a message to a player per se, it's more of our approach, our attitude to the game. We try to make the game as perfect as possible. I doubt it will make commercial reasonable. I know that at least 20% of the players play without sounds, so switch or reducing the sounds and playing their own music in.
Now, I can understand this if you're just playing aviation, especially since they put a radio feature in the game in the early days. I still think it's there, by the way. There's an internet radio version there. And the fact that he knows that 20% of people also don't turn on their sound is kind of crazy. But yeah, the fact that a fifth of the people will not even benefit from this, and the fact that they're putting in all of this work is not the fact that they're not doing it for, once again, just monetary purposes. They realized that to create something like this would be unique and something that has never been seen before. Right? And they wanted to keep as authentic as possible. Now, when it comes to War Thunder, that's something that separates it from many other games. Obviously, with like the flight model stuff and in arcade, and you know the accessibility of War Thunder with stuff like mouse aim, some of those things get compromised. But also, that's one of the major reasons why people got into the game in the first place. The fact that they could see stuff which looked realistic and was as realistic as possible, sounded realistic, and you could get your hands on it, and then on top of that, at the same time, you could have a setup where you were able, to actually control these things. When a lot of other games, they did pretty good on, what the models look like, what the sounds, sounded like, but the actual controlling of it was not as accessible, and that was the key thing that Gaijin really got right with this.
In the headphones, so I know that. I do hope that it's less percentage in our case, because we try to create really good music. We recorded orchestra, symphonic orchestras, and good composers, and we're really trying to put a lot of efforts in music as well. But I still understand that some of the people will not hear our sounds. However, that's up to them. It's their decision. What we're trying to do is to make the visuals, details, authenticity in general, and sounds as well to be as authentic as possible and as cool as possible. We even put efforts to repair the old World War II vehicles to make them to record their sounds, which is beyond any commercial reasonable efforts.
Right, so we'll go through. I've been trying to find all the videos on this, but what he's talking about here is that Kubinka, there was a busted up, I think it was a T-44, and they literally rebuilt it. I think it's like sat outside of Kubinka right now, probably rusting again. But yeah, they rebuilt the whole thing. And obviously did a bunch of videos around it and like went, hey, look at this. But I'm still looking for all of them. But we will go through that. But yeah, just literally just to record sound and also just to, kind of get the model of what it was like. it made no sense money-wise. You know, they didn't profit from doing that at that time. You know, I'm sure the videos they made probably made no money. The sound and the, you know, physical asset of having it and being able to model it in the game, that's what was important to them. Like, isn't that just cool? I don't know how else to put it. I mean, it's just cool.
For any other game, it's just our passion about the game, about the history.
Imagine if, like, you have a medieval game, like, imagine, like, Mount and Blade, right, Bannerlord. I know it's in, like, a fictional world, but you know what, it's based around, like, you know, medieval stuff. Imagine if, like, one of them, like, straight up was like, I wonder how armor sounded when it got, like, hit. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a ton of different, like, armor outfits from that era, completely, you know, like, restore them, and then we're going to get people to bash each other with hammers and swords and axes and shields, so then we can record them to put them in the game. That's what Gaijin did, but with tanks. And for so many years, I had to hear about how these people aren't passionate, they just don't care, and all of this stuff. When all of this media existed, it's crazy to think about. Passion is so important in projects like this. And it was very obvious from the early days, there was a lot of passion involved.
在首发仪式上，战争雷霆的 CG 非常精美，而以歌剧的形式来演绎战争的美感更让人耳目一新。那么，如何来看待或解读战争雷霆所提出的战争的艺术的概念呢？
That's the main. The war is scary. Basically, no one wants to participate in war. However, the beauty of those vehicles, of the military vehicles, of planes and tanks and ships, is also something really moving most of, at least, male audience, because we feel the power and we feel the aesthetic, general, like, aesthetic of those things, of these vehicles. So the same goes to the combat itself. Of course, during the real combat, people dies. Luckily, we're making a game, so we can try to put these emotions, to get people to feel those emotions of a combat, and in the same time they do not risk really die or taking injuries in the game. So War Thunder Heroes is one of the examples of our vision of what we are making in the game. We're making the real, try to provide the real feelings, the emotions of those people who are controlling those vehicles, pilots, tank drivers, or captains or the ship. So when you play in our game in the War Fund, you can feel those emotions, and at the same time you can participate in a real combat, almost real combat, of course, without risking having injury and without guilt for killing real people. So we do not show blood, we do not show those wounds in the game, even in the CG video. World War II has ended, and although it was not nice in general, but it still has ended, and good guys have prevailed. So the War Thunder Heroes and the game
By the way, War Thunder Heroes, so that's not like another game, that's a cinematic that Gaijin made. We can go through those cinematics if you want to. They're all on the War Thunder channel still. There's a bunch of them. There's some which, you know, obviously talk about like Pavlov's 28. There's a few which are about like kind of, you know, just having a bit of fun or trying to invoke specific emotions. What I would really like is for them to do actually more of those cinematics. I think it would be really cool to do. They obviously put a lot of work into their like update trailers now, and also their update kind of post videos where they talk about the vehicles and stuff. But I think one of the things that War Thunder's lost is this type of idea where you are supposed to, in a way, embrace being the pilot, embrace being the tank commander, embrace being the naval commander. I feel like War Thunder has gone away from that idea, and now instead it's just more about you are X vehicle and you are going to do X thing. I hear about it a lot, actually, from people. And I do kind of feel it myself as well. There is less of a feeling of, okay, we are here to, do a job, or we're here to set all these things up. Instead, what it is more of a, all right, this is just a game. And I think, decisions like, copy paste stuff, adding more nations which have very similar vehicles and also aren't as historically, prevalent in these conflicts has probably led to this. But also at the same time, with the pages of history, with, the dev blogs and their history behind the vehicles, and also stuff like that, they are trying to bring it back. And I think that's good, because it is a core part of the game. And I've said many times, War Thunder is fantastic as a game, but it is also fantastic as a teaching aid for people, which is very important.
In our game, we try to emphasize, to show that the idea, the hope for the future after the war, the emotions about and hopes for a victory, and emotions about that. So, and at the same time, it is still interesting and intelligent competition. I mean, you are really trying to prevail on a battlefield against enemy team, and that's a real male competition. There are not many people, not much things that male do better than female, but war is one of them. So you can participate in that scale, epic scale of a real war in a game without real risk and real guilt.
God damn it.
战争雷霆在外服中已经实现了在一个客户端下实现陆空联动对战模式，飞机 vs 坦克。那玩家们万分期待海陆空三端联动多久才可以实现呢？会成为战争。
I really like the context of what do men do better than women? Killing each other. Fair enough.
雷霆的终极目标吗？
Well, first of all, of course, warships and tanks are not fighting against each other due to obvious reasons. So it's more about tanks and planes and warships.
By the way, this was before ground was in the game, and also before naval was in the game. Years before. So they already had all of these plans on what they wanted to do for years. War Thunder was never supposed to just be an air game. It was supposed to be air, ground, and sea from the beginning. So even I can't remember when naval CBT was for War Thunder, because there was a few CBTs to test destroyers, to test coastal stuff, but it was years after this video. Right? It's crazy.
Even in the current version, you already have warships and then tanks and planes, but only planes and tanks can be controlled by players.
The tanks are in CBT at this time.
Warships are air only. Yet. The idea is that you cannot make a game about one type of... well, probably you can make a game about planes only, but you cannot make a game about tanks only or warships only, because during World War II, a lot of effect was provided by aviation. Aviation was changing the battle, the combat. It can really... There are a lot of good examples how planes only can kill, like Yamato, which is a very big and scary battleship, and in the same time they really deal victory. But planes cannot, especially planes of World War II, cannot actually capture the territory. How powerful your plane is doesn't matter if you cannot control on the ground or on the sea. So this couple of seconds. This interaction between different types of vehicles is the key to understanding of World War II. World War II was about infantry, which takes the most part, tanks, which provided the tanks and other armored vehicles, which provided the real firepower to the ground, and warships, which provided the same firepower on the seaside. But none of the battles can actually be understood as the World War II battles without the planes. So this interaction between either two of vehicles is key to understanding World War II.
This is why you will never have like a ground-only mode, right? Or maybe you will in the future, but this is why there hasn't been one since this video. Because the core point of War Thunder is an amalgamation of all these different things where they can work. They are trying, and have done very successfully, to create a battlefield which resembles, at least in some way, a historic battlefield, even with many vehicles that would not historically be there. And that feeling, that idea of participating in a real battle instead of in a fake battle in a video game was pretty much, well, it was one of the core design decisions at the start of the game. So even though you may get annoyed by CAS, even though, you know, you may feel like certain things are overpowered, that's why that exists in that setup, right? And overall, it's been pretty successful. But once again, it means that you add a ton of different variables to something, and being able to balance all of those is pretty much impossible, which is what we've seen over the years in War Thunder.
Infantry, of course, is also very important. However, none of the people, even if they're well, not superhuman, but superhuman can probably do that. But in real life, human cannot prevail against a tank, or especially against plane, or against sea warship, because for obvious reasons, they're armored and people not that armored. During World War II, there was all sides of the conflict hasn't enough armored vehicles. Otherwise, most of the battles would be fought by only armored vehicles with insignificant support from infantry. So, in terms of for game design purposes, it makes a lot of sense to focus on those main armored vehicles, which really were the steel beasts, their real firepower during World War II. So it's not about, you know, like having all three, which we do have, but it's not about having all three. It's all about interactions.
I just really wish that whoever made Enlisted and have made the decisions over the last few times about Enlisted and how it all worked, watched this video. So we didn't have like aviation, ground, just nuking infantry. I wish that was the case.
About the communications between different type of vehicles and between different type of players as well. So even tanks and planes, or planes and warships, by themselves provide that level of communication, that level of interaction. So it's all about that. In planes only, you have bombers and fighters and strike fighters, which also provide types of communication, but still, that's not enough. You need to have this interaction between those who will really take the territory and those who can give enough support, of firepower support, to take the territory, to prevail against the enemy army. So that's a real World War II epic scale battle. And if you want to have the World War II experience, you need to play with the game with that.
在中国，也有很多怀揣游戏梦想的创业人，为了实现自己的梦想，不断的努力。安烫作为游戏公司的创始人，他会有什么好的建议来与中国游戏人分享呢？
There are two general and two specific advices I can give. General advice is you need to work a lot and work hard. It doesn't mean that you will be successful, but if you are not, you can only count on a luck. Luck is good if you do have it, but most of the time luck comes to those who are trying. So you will need to work hard. And the second general advice is that you need to be patient about what you're doing. You need to feel that you're doing something great, which all other people, or at least you, will admire. You need to make a game which you want to play. You don't want to start working on a game which you don't feel is good, but you feel your audience will like. It's so unlikely that it will result in any kind of success that it doesn't make sense. Moreover, even if it will result in some kind of success, that success will be only temporal, because you cannot learn anything from success of the game which you not believe in. That means you just believed in someone else, and someone else has been proven right. So you do not know anything at all, anything new. You haven't learned anything. This someone else who told you that the game will be great, and you done it and it's great. That's someone else's achievement, not you, not yours. So two general advices: work hard and work only on a thing you feel you can make good.
Now that philosophy right there is hard for a lot of people, right? Especially when it comes to their general jobs, because usually you're working for somebody else. But that philosophy for me, at least in my work life, because, you know, I do all the YouTube stuff and the streaming stuff, but I actually have like a job on top of all this, like a full-time job. So that philosophy there has also helped me a lot. You need to, first of all, work on stuff that you enjoy, and also work hard on it. And with more hard work comes more luck, right? If you don't put the work in, you're not going to have any of the luck with it. You're not going to be able to get the connections. You're not going to be able to do that. But also you have to be passionate about the thing that you are working on. And also you need to believe in yourself and the work that you're doing. That, I think, is the key one, which kind of separates many different people across the place when it comes to what they work on and what others do. Passion is huge, which is why a lot of these places, after many years of kind of doing the same thing, the passion kind of dies. And you can see that in the products that are created. Call of Duty is a great example of this, and FIFA, or any of these kind of like long franchises that haven't been updated constantly over and over, instead just get micro improvements to be able to sell people new stuff. So yeah, passion is super important, not just in game development, but in everything, right? And if you feel like in your actual job, right, which you don't have that, that's fine. But you need to find an outlet in your life where you can actually do that. So you need to pick up like a hobby, pick up like a supplementary thing, focus on that, and throw your passion into it. And then that will eventually become your main thing if you put in enough work and also have enough luck. That's pretty much what he did, and also pretty much what a ton of people do who don't come from insanely privileged backgrounds. That's what you end up doing.
You have passion about it. If you don't have passion about anything in particular, then I would suggest not to work in game industry at all. And two particular advices. Today is one of the best days for making games. Before era of mobile devices and digital distribution platforms, there was not much way you can be successful even if you make a good game without having established and good connection with one of the big publishers. Having big publishers on your site is great, but most likely big publishers will want you only if you are already successful, which means you need to be successful first, and that means you need to start working with your audience directly. Mobile devices, browser-based games, and digital distribution platforms provide you very short way to your customers. So do that. Do not start working on a game which is so big that can only be published with a big publisher.
Helldivers 2. Small team, mainly through Steam, right? Power World. This advice transcends time, because all of those things that he's talking about are now fully fledged and ready to go. Lethal Company, once again, just another game. You'll still have the big ones that come through, Dragon's Dogma, Baldur's Gate, which will come through. But from an individual point of view, the advice he's giving right now also transcends to today, right? So as time has gone on, especially from an individual's point of view, if you want to create something, stuff gets easier and easier and easier, right? We watched recently the Unreal Engine kind of showcase from Epic Games. The amount of tools and the amount of accessibility now that is for an engine like that is nuts. It is insane.
Well, if you have C buff, if you have a passion about that, you can, and you can probably be successful, but it's just not what I will recommend, because the chances are low. And the second particular device is that you need to talk with your community, with your audience directly. Show them what you're doing, listen for their feedback, and try to learn something from it. It doesn't mean that you need to immediately do what everything is saying to you, because first of all, they will be saying completely different things, and second, they cannot give you some new ideas, because feedback is something reacting, and if you want to make something new, you need to start proactive. You need to be first one. But when you have this idea and you've already done something which is playable and interesting, you need to have feedbacks from your customers. Put it on as a demo version, put it on at least give it to your friends, and listen to what they say. Probably your game is great, but there is some frustrating experiences in this game, not about the main idea, but about something else, which can spoil the game. So listen to your community before it's too late.
And this is once again very true as well. This was something that was echoed in a talk from the early Counter-Strike developers, the team who created the original Counter-Strike, who then went to work for Valve, and then now we have CSGO, then CS2, and so on and so forth. The idea is you do need to listen to the community, but also it is reactive stuff. It is feedback, which is based on the current thing, and you may already have plans in the future to fix said current thing, or you are working on new stuff at the same time. So feedback is super important, and nowadays I have no idea how they deal with it, because there's just so much of it around. Like, it's crazy. And once again, even from the early days of War Thunder, they do listen, and they do now today. And that is one of the key takeaways from this, right? They always have listened. They always have. And it's been sad over the years to see that people don't think they do, because they're not specifically listening to them. Especially when you have thousands and thousands of people who all have different opinions about the same thing. The question isn't, are they listening? The question is, how do you deal with all of the contradictory statements, and which one do you pick is correct? And that's where game directors, that's where game designers, that's why these types of people make their money and, you know, are able to go forward.
Those are two my specific and particular advices.
Now that's the end of the interview, and as you can see, it's a really good interview, and unfortunately, it's really hard to find anywhere. So there's a lot of interviews like this that are around the place, and I'm completely fine with going all over them just to kind of preserve them, because I think it's important for people to see not just the origins of War Thunder, but also the origins of Gaijin, and a lot of the guys who are actually behind these products. Because, first of all, Anton is Russian, he also speaks pretty good English. This was 10 years ago. And at the same time, they've constantly had these ideas, and this is what the foundation of War Thunder is. That's why it's as successful as it is, and it's why it transcended the genre of what we knew as World War II / general military games. This mindset to this day is fantastic, right? And it's one which is very hard to do because you have to be confident, and you also have to have kind of a bit of a spontaneous kick up on something and then drive home it with a drill. And that's hard for people to do sometimes. But it's very refreshing to see it when it comes to War Thunder and other things. In this nostalgia series, we're here to have a look at a lot of old stuff and to kind of show you the building blocks of War Thunder. And this video was much more about the mentality of everything and how everything was set up in the first place. It's a gem, and it's sad that it's so hard to find. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Tullio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pieman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Alan Hacker, Ozzy Panzer, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Cam Arslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.